Okay, I think we can call the meeting to order. I've got 7:03. Welcome to the Public Safety Commission. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag,
Flag for the
United States of America,
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
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 nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, liberty
liberty
and
and
liberty
justice for
justice
and
for
all.
all.
justice for all. Thank you. Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Hunter Chang,
Yeah, here.
Vice Chair Jeff Bozell,
President,
Commissioner Eugene Ramirez is excused, Commissioner Elbow,
Here,
Commissioner Victoria Firestone. She's not here. Alternate Zila Tobiano.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you. We have a quorum. All right. Okay, agenda's been posted. At this time, we'd like to have any public comments. Anyone who's here, I noticed there's one person here. If you would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda, you're welcome to now. If not, we will move on.
There are no emails and no one's raising their hand.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on then. Commissioner reports. Any commissioners have any reports? Okay, let's move on to the Police Department Chief and Control, please.
good evening, Chair, and thank you very much, Public Safety Commission. You've read our report. I just wanted to highlight a couple specific areas. Number one, we're continuing to be plagued by larcenies. We've been putting out messaging. Last week, we had a meeting that was partly with code enforcement and with us, and we talked about code enforcement issues, but we also spent the time to talk about the larcenies. For the most part, the larcenies are in three areas as they continue to do it: gardening equipment, thefts from vehicles. People are continuing to leave their vehicles open and unlocked with items visible, and also package thefts. Package thefts are picking up with the COVID issues and closures. We are continuing to see more and more people order things. We've put out information in the past. We're going to put out another safety bulletin this week. It'll cover a couple things. One is the larcenies in the vehicle or thefts from vehicle. And then also a community member mentioned that a lot of people are walking, which is great, but they're walking in the middle of the street and doing so at night without any kind of reflective equipment on themselves or anything else. So we want to make sure that we don't have a traffic collision between a vehicle and a pedestrian, which could be awful. So we're going to be putting out information like that. I've seen that myself. Sometimes people are cooperative, sometimes they're not. But we'll find out and put that information out. We're doing pretty well on personnel. We are at 27 police officers. We are evaluating 2 to 3 additional candidates for police officer. We're getting lateral applicants, meaning people from other departments. We've also filled one of our cadet positions, which is great. A young man who goes to PCC, hoping to go to USC in the fall or sometime in the spring next year. And he lives nearby in Pasadena. His desire is to be a police officer. It's very nice to have that. Plus, that's exactly what the cadet program is all about. An update on our traffic, our vehicles and our motorcycles. For the police vehicles, they are at the dealer over in Alhambra, but we are delayed in getting them to the equipment outfitter. They have 17 less people working there because of COVID. And so we have a bit of a delay. And that delay could be as much as February. We're hoping once the equipment gets there and by January, beginning of January, maybe even end of December, that it'll take about a month to get vehicles equipped, and they'll come back here and have the mobile digital computers placed in the vehicles. As far as the motorcycles, we're not doing as well. BMW has placed a hold on the release of the motorcycles. There's a recall on a certain piece of equipment on the motorcycles. That could delay them until January or February. Also, our officers are now scheduled for a motor officer school in March. They were scheduled for January, but there were some, because of the issues with our motorcycles, that's not achievable. The good thing is in March, they'll be going, I believe, to Santa Ana or Anaheim for the school, and they have loaner motorcycles. So they will tip over in the class. They will probably scratch the motorcycle a couple times. Hopefully they won't scratch themselves too much. And this way our new motorcycles will not be damaged. So we're very appreciative of that, and from the agency sponsoring the school. The larcenies are a concern, and we're really going to work hard on trying to get the community's attention. And yesterday I was riding my bike through Pasadena. I slipped down into San Marino, and I must have seen 4 or 5 houses, even with people inside, where there was multiples of packages sitting out on the front, by the front door, clearly visible from the street. And hopefully people will get the message that that's not a good thing to do, and we'll be putting out information. Other than that, does the commission have any questions?
Chief, question on the portable trailers. Is that still, how's that working?
Yes, it is working. We are placing it throughout the city at different times. We're having some a learning curve on getting the downloaded information, and we've corrected that through training all the watch commanders and our corporals on how to operate the equipment, so we'll have the data available to us. The smaller portable signs arrived last week, and as Public Works has time, and they've been doing an extraordinary job with everything that we have going on, especially the trailer life here that we've started week 2 on. We should have those assembled and placed in different places throughout the community, but we're working and placing the trailer throughout the city. It's been effective.
Chair, may
Yes.
I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Al.
I'm curious, there is a speed notification, I think it's a speed notification sign on Huntington Drive on the north side that's somewhere near the Valentine School. I drove that direction the other day, and I noticed it had some kind of a message on it. But it wasn't monitoring speed or anything. Is that a speed monitoring sign, or is that a message sign? Do you know?
It does monitor the speed, but we did a survey, I think early last week, maybe the week before, because there were some signs that were not functioning properly. And Director Throne has been working on it, has already contacted the company to come out and service those signs.
Oh, okay. So it might have been working, but working differently than usual.
Yes, and they are kind of temperamental. They are, they've been around for a while. They were bought on a grant prior to me being here, which is more than 6 years. And also along the traffic issue, we have applied for an OTC traffic grant. That's the organization within the state that provides grants. And that will be supporting us on driving while intoxicated task forces, pedestrian safety task forces. And we're about a year out on awarding of the grant. We're at the very beginning of the stage, and I want to thank the mayor for bringing some information to our attention that Arcadia was doing. So Commander Blondet is working on that, and he's had contact with the organization that controls the grant, and based upon our needs and having the motor officer program. If we didn't have motors, we wouldn't have been able to get the grant or be even able to apply for the grant.
Mhm.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm being very optimistic here.
Yeah.
We would, so we are eligible because of the motor officer program, and I'm very grateful for having, being able to do that again.
May I ask one additional question of the chief?
Yes, please do.
You recently published some information that was communicated to the community, including an indication that we would begin again enforcing the no overnight parking regulations after the first of the year. During the immediate period following that time, is there a chance that it might be practical to offer warnings to violators for the first couple of weeks until people really recognize that the rules have changed again?
Well, we're doing that this month, and we'll also be fairly lenient on our enforcement through the beginning of January. We're getting some pushback from a small 1 or 2 people in the community about the enforcement. So we are taking a look at that. We are, I am discussing that with the city manager and seeing what's the appropriate way to handle it. I did a informal survey of the other chiefs in LA County, and most departments are enforcing overnight parking restrictions that they do have. So we wanted to move forward, but there's some viable reasons that maybe we would delay it or not, but we're still talking about it. And if there's any changes, I'll notify everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting we not do it, and I'm not suggesting we not enforce it. I was just asking about the possibility that for the first 2 or 3 weeks that people might receive a warning, and then the second time we fine them. But I just, remember that when we have at various times started and stopped, there's always some confusion when we get started again.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And also that we're going to stop at the holiday 2-week period, so that can add to the confusion. So we'll definitely include the warnings.
Chief, are your releases and warnings giving people any information about how to get a waiver from the overnight rules? And I only ask not for me, but because I have neighbors who, because of COVID, because of the stay-at-home restrictions, have a full family of people who live in their house, and as unsightly as it may end up being, 4 or 5 cars, and they can't all get in the driveway and can't all get in the garage. So they try very hard. They park sideways on the apron, which seems dangerous. But if there's some waiver possibility or some way to get some out from the policy for those folks who do have a need because of COVID, it would, I think, behoove us to make that information available.
Well, that's a great point and a great question. We're putting this into play before the latest restrictions. We know the restrictions are going to go to at least December 27th, I believe. And so it may be that we have to really think about this again because of the COVID restrictions. So that's part of our consideration for the future. And we will, once we do it, we will include waivers and information on how to obtain a permit, etc.
Hey, any other questions for Chief and Control? Okay, can I get a motion to accept and file the police reports?
So move.
I second it.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Well, the 2 people that made the motion and you, so.
Aye.
Even if you didn't want to do it, I think we win, Al.
Okay, moving on to the fire department, Chief Rueda.
Good evening, commissioners. Again, you have the fire department's monthly report in front of you. I did want to, as did Chief Encontro, just highlight a couple areas of interest. Under personnel, I did list the 2 new probationary firefighters that were just hired. That leaves 1 additional vacancy in the department, and we do have 2 candidates that are going through backgrounds and entry-level medicals for selection. The 1 firefighter, Basley, went through our 1-week orientation. He was exposed to COVID, so he did end up going into quarantine, and he actually contracted the illness. So he has been off for about 3 weeks now. So he never got a chance to get started, but we're hoping he comes back just as strong, ready to go. The other item I wanted to point out was on December 1st, under emergency incidents, Engine 91 responded to a vehicle fire just off of Granada and Huntington Drive. It turned out to be a fully involved pickup truck, and it's quickly extinguished. The captain that was on scene, Sutliff, quickly realized it didn't appear to be any natural causes, and there was no occupant. So we've worked with the police department, and we have a number of leads, but I think as this is concluded, as the detectives and Captain Sutliff give us sort of their approval to release some of the details, I think you'll find it interesting when we do release just the amount of work that goes into tracking down this individual that intentionally lit this vehicle, and we'll bring him to justice, because I do think the purpose of having that arson capability in the department is to really deter others from coming into our city and think they may get away with it. But I think what the police department and investigator Sutliff have done a great job in pulling this together next month. You have the fire department's monthly performance report in front of you. We seem to be trending in pretty consistent fact it takes for us to get out of quarters and get to calls, and the number of times we're going outside of the city as compared to inside of the city. And that's been a pretty steady trend that's neutral for us. It's not going in any concerning pattern. I do have a separate report that I set aside on just our COVID response, but even from the writing of that report to today, it seems like 1,000 years ago. It is just COVID, and there's a lot of information. There's a lot of information we're putting out to residents, to employees, and I'll discuss some of that in the next report. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Chief, will your next report address any role that we in the city plays in enforcement of any of the COVID directives regarding mask spacing, not gathering, and the like?
The gathering and the rules and the approvals that are sought from various entities in the city, I can discuss that. The enforcement is probably in the wheelhouse of our police chief.
When should I ask the question?
Let me cover the COVID report and
Great.
see if I answer your question in the body of the report. And
I'll bet you will.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Ureta. Any questions? Other questions for Chief Ureta? Okay. If not, can I get a motion to accept and file the fire department report?
I move.
Or I second, either way.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Is that a question? Al?
No.
We were voting.
Oh, you're voting. Okay, aye. All right. Okay, thank you. Moving on to Parks and Public Works, Director Throne.
Thank you, Chair Chang. I wanted to follow up on an item from a prior commission meeting. I consulted with both chiefs and the community development director on a house numbering format, and we modified our engineering standard that we will include in our future resurfacing projects. And I provided you with a copy of that. With respect to projects in or near construction, we replaced 5 out of the 6 streetlights on Bellhaven. We did that ahead of schedule and at budget. We completed our fumigation of the City Hall buildings exactly on time. And the fire service was able to move back in right away. The police department is still in trailers. We're furiously working on John's building. And so the lobby renovation is underway. We've hired a painting contractor who will be in shortly. We're looking to get the, yeah, that's John's trailer, John's trailer life. The electrical contractor is actually completing up several weeks ahead of schedule, and he was far less expensive than we had originally budgeted. So we're going to take advantage of those funds that have already been appropriated. I attached for your information the draft plan of the San Marino Center that's being recommended by the Community Task Force. The council will be looking at that on Wednesday. And if they see that it's an appropriate plan to go forward with, we will use it for 2 things. One being the preparation of environmental documents. It will act as our project description. And the other will be to move forward with developing construction plans and specifications. So that's very exciting. The citywide traffic survey, or the citywide traffic circulation work, is being done by our Iteris. They submitted an administrative draft to me just before Thanksgiving. I'm looking at it, and I will be bringing it to you at your January meeting, which means you'll probably see it in less than 2 weeks, because the agendas will have to go out because your meeting is right after the first of the year. We're also starting to gear up for our capital improvement process. And if the commission hears of any capital projects that they've heard from the community, people thinking, wow, this would be a great thing if the city were to do that, you can bring that list along with you to your January meeting. As I'll report later about playground, we had just opened the playground and now we've closed it again. So we'll be monitoring that situation there as it relates to our participation in the city's COVID response. That's all that I have highlights. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions for Director Throne? Okay. Thank you, Michael. Can I get a motion to accept and file the Parks Public Works report?
Move to accept and file.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Okay, moving on to new business approval of minutes. Everyone's read the minutes from our last meeting. We get a motion to approve the minutes from our November 2nd meeting.
I wasn't there, so I can't move or second.
Okay. Well, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I guess, yeah, we have enough people to get a vote on it then, right? With.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait,
Then I'll
I
second.
see-
If you just moved, I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Opposed, none? All right. Okay, moving on, COVID-19 update. That Chief Ueda again.
Thank you, Chair. So I wanted to separate out the COVID-19 information just because it has been such a large part of the work of the many departments here in the city. The uptick in calls that the fire department has actually responded to of residents in the city is increased. Although it doesn't seem like many, there's the people that do call, and at the point they call, they're really sick. They're having difficulty breathing and are really do need to go to the hospital. Those all result in transports to the hospital. Most of our patients do go to Huntington Memorial, but Arcadia and San Gabriel also take patients. And most of the time we can honor requests if somebody wants to go to a particular hospital. But we have seen an increase in the number of calls. Although we don't diagnose in the field, the symptoms are very consistent with COVID-19. As I stated in the report, we follow a number of protocols for approaching the patient, PPE, and oftentimes the police department's with us, and they also follow protocols for safe distancing and utilizing PPE. When I wrote this, I used the November 30th data, which was 5,150 new daily cases in LA County. Since that date, by Sunday, our number of cases, daily cases, has gone up to 10,500. Hospitalizations, here in the report, I pointed out the 2,185 patients. That's exceeded 3,000 patients now. And I suspect the percentage of people going into ICUs is pretty consistent. About 1 out of 4 patients goes into the ICU when they go to the hospital. So that's a very sick patient. Although I didn't know it at the time, the governor did institute the regional order that incorporates LA County with several other counties around us, and has placed restrictions based on ICU bed availability. On Saturday, when that order was published, we hadn't reached or on Friday when that order was published, we hadn't reached the threshold. By Saturday, we were well below the threshold for entering into the order. Many residents do contact the city asking for information about what various events, whether they're allowed or not, how they can be conducted with various safety measures. And really the governor's order has put all that on hold. There are really no outings or gatherings that are allowed at this point. I know the chief gets as many calls as I do, and we're consistent in really giving them guidance. We also have received a temporary emergency order from Cal OSHA that we're going through with our attorneys that deals with protections for employees. Fortunately, we put a very robust employee protection plan in early in the pandemic, but as information about the disease has come to light, our plan has changed, and we have been reviewing for the last week the Cal OSHA order and how it impacts our rules with respect to our employees. The Emergency Operations Center continues to be staffed and offers services for residents. I know they're working with recreation right now. We've just started last Monday I think this is our 4th round of calls to some of our senior residents in the city, making sure they're okay, doing wellness checks, and we're going to offer a care package of some items that Recreations believes may be of interest, and also we're going to give masks, cloth masks, to those that request those. And we continue to get requests for various items from residents that just can't get out. So the service is working well, and I know I talked to a number of peers, and I don't know that there's another city that really sort of offers this sort of premium service to residents. You call and we'll figure out a way to help you. That concludes my report, unless you have questions, and I'll let Chief Incontro chat about the enforcement part, because that's sort of out of my scope.
Thank you, Chief. What we've been doing since the beginning of this pandemic is utilizing an education and information way of enforcing the mask rules and the group assembly. We have had success. Occasionally we have a little pushback, but for the most part, we've had success. It's a posture that is embraced by nearly all the police departments and the sheriff's department in Los Angeles County. The public health orders directing enforcement are controlled by a health and safety code sections, 2 or 3 of them. And for the most part, it is a police department or sheriff's department may enforce these. We've taken this posture. We believe it's the best way to inform and educate the community. For businesses, that's more of a code enforcement and administrative issue that Director Cervantes has been dealing with and speaking with the businesses, and has been very successful. He, in fact, provided updates over the weekend to the businesses about the new stay-at-home order that went into effect at just after midnight today. The possibility of us being more using different tactics as far as writing citations, and the other, it requires a misdemeanor filing. That is done by the DA's office. If you listen to the new DA, there won't be any filings on nonviolent cases, especially first offenders. There's also, we have to consider what's the best use of department resources, because it does take quite a while, and we have had success with information and education with those community members. So that is the tack that we would like to use and are going to continue to use as long as it's successful.
Thank you, Chiefs. Any questions on the COVID-19 response update?
I would just like to commend all of our city staff for what they're doing, because it's quite clear that there's more than just an ordinary effort here. And I think our community is much better off because of it. And I just, as a citizen at least, I want to say thank you to all of those in charge, and as well to those who report to them, because this is a big problem, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that too. Thank you, Chief Rada and Chief Incontro, for helping us get through this trying time. Okay, can I get a motion to accept and file the COVID-19 response update report?
Sure, I move.
Okay. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor? Okay, moving on. NIBRS report, Chief Incontro.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to give you an update on NIBRS and CYBRS. NIBRS is a national reporting system for crime, and CYBRS is a California reporting system for crime. They're going to be going into effect next year. Spearheading this effort for the department is my records manager, Angelica Gonzalez. She has been working very hard, extremely hard, trying to get us up and ready. She'll explain in her brief presentation about what the process is, and the new things, the many new things that our officers, our records personnel, Angie's going to have to do, and detectives are going to have to do in reporting crime. You'll see a change in statistical information, and part of that is an education so you understand it. And I wanted Angie to give this presentation for you. And with that, I wanted to introduce Angela Gonzalez, and she can take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and good evening, Public Safety Commissioners. As Chief said, starting January 1st, we as the state of California will start having to report to NIBRS, and NIBRS is actually the federal way to report crime, and NIBRS translates to National Incident-Based Reporting System. So we are scheduled, San Marino PD is scheduled to go to NIBRS reporting by the end of February 2021, even though the FBI wants to start, will start intaking reports from the rest of California starting January 1st, 2021. So let me give you a little overview of how we're reporting now and how we will be reporting starting next year. Currently, we report the Uniform Crime Reporting statistical data. And with UCR, we only report 8 crimes, and that's what we call our Part 1 crimes. And this UCR program was established back in 1929, and it has not changed. It has not added more crime. It has not deleted any crime. It's still reporting the 8 crimes that were established in 1929. Summary reporting system, like I said, only reports 8 offenses, and it employs the hierarchy rule. Only the most serious offense is reported. So if you have a murder and a burglary, for instance, only the murder will get reported, and the murder only the murder gets reported and the burglary doesn't get reported. It takes data for violent personal crimes such as murder and forcible rape, and it also captures data for property crimes, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, larceny, and arson. It does not UCR does not paint the whole picture for the nation or for the state for that matter. It only gives you a brief synopsis of the actual crimes that are occurring in the state or in the nation. The National Incident-Based Reporting System began in 1991 and actually reflects the incident-based reporting structure of law enforcement records. So once we go to this system, it puts us to, it gives us a standardized way of reporting crime. So all of the US will be reporting crime the same exact way. We will all be speaking the same language. It will provide more thorough data, and it will provide more transparency as well. NIBRS collects offense, victim offender, property, and arrestee information on 52 offenses and up to 10 offenses per incident. So if you have a report, now it will capture all of the crimes that occurred in that specific incident. Nothing will get dropped off. There is no hierarchy rule. So the benefits for San Marino Police Department in California: it provides greater specificity in reporting offenses. It collects more detailed information. It helps give context to specific crime problems, and it provides better analytical data. It also provides data for deployment purposes, and it also provides better information for grants and victimology information. In addition to the crimes that that we are currently reporting, it adds categories such as crimes against persons, murder, rape, and aggravated assault, crimes against property, robbery, burglary, and larceny theft. NIBRS also collects crimes against society, which are drug, narcotic offenses, gambling, pornography, obscene materials, and prostitution. And the biggest thing is that NIBRS collects crimes against society in cyberspace and identity theft. So these, right now, we don't report this through UCR. So this information will actually up our crime statistics a little bit, because currently we're not providing it to UCR. But starting January 1st, we'll provide this information, and it will look like our statistics are going up, but they're in actually they're not. Based on FBI research, the effects of NIBRS on Part 1 crimes is very small. So, like I said, the crimes that we're not reporting right now are cyberspace crimes, identity theft, are very minimal and will not make a huge impact to our statistics. The small increase is explained by the allowance of reporting of incidents with multiple offenses and the absence of the hierarchy rule. So how as an agency are we preparing? We have to review our existing data and policies and procedures to make sure that we will be adhering to the FBI regulations. We have to get our CAD and RMS system to basically talk to the Department of Justice. So when we submit our reports, there's no error messages. And we have to assess our workflow and our business practices and train all the officers and records clerks and sergeants on how to submit the correct data. Is there any questions?
Yes.
Chair Chang, while you're all maybe thinking about questions, this at first seems like lots and lots of work. We're focusing on training our officers to write better reports. The requirements and coding require detailed information that are going to help us in the long run. And for example, I think one thing to think of is if we have a car broken into in a parking lot. Right now, all we put is theft from a vehicle in a parking lot. Well, NIBRS and CYBRS requires us to put the type of premise that the parking lot is attached to. Maybe a church, maybe a school. And it can help us when we do analysis of a crime, and we'd be able to find out, oh, okay, we seem to have a string of thefts in a parking lot or a church parking lot or something like that. It also will require us to and enable us to do a better job of, like I said, crime analysis, but it'll help our detectives in solving crimes. They'll be getting more information. At first, the learning curve is going to be steep. Angie has already put together a training pamphlet for our officers, done a great job with that. And that'll help our officers and our sergeants as they are writing their reports, including the information that's required. One of the things that's helpful also is last year in the budget, we changed our CAD RMS system to a different company. This company is already including NIBRS and CYBRS information in the reporting process of the RMS, which is a report management system. So it kind of helps the officers learn what to do, what to add. It's just that at the beginning, they're going to have to ask more questions of victims and witnesses. But overall, it's going to help us get better information to help us solve crimes. It's most officers look at it going, oh my God, I've got all these crimes. I've got all these reporting parts to it. But for me, when I started 42 years ago, our big joke was how many reports am I going to have to do, which are physical reports, and then how many reporting numbers are going to go with all those reports. We're going to have more report forms or face sheets for a form if it involves a rape, if it involves a cyber crime, if it involves a crime against society, if it involves a theft of a vehicle or stolen vehicle. But overall, it's going to help us do a better job in the long run. So hopefully that helps you formulate your questions, or maybe I've confused you even more.
Chair Chang, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm curious. We talk about writing reports, preparing reports. Are reports all still handwritten, or are the officers in a position to enter data directly at the scene of the event, or they have to take notes in their little notebook and then come back to the office and write things up? How does reporting work? Do they have computers? I know they have computers in their car that do something. Could you sort of summarize how the physical part of reporting works now, and whether that'll be changed dramatically?
Sure. So currently the way the process works is when an officer is dispatched to a location, they take a report, they're taking notes. They take notes and then they come back to the station and they write the report in what we call the records management system. That records management system is like a workflow where the officer writes the report, types up the report, submits it via electronically to the sergeant. The sergeant reviews the report electronically, approves it, and then submits it to the records, at which point records will go ahead and validate the coding, which is the UCR right now. We validate for coding, any grammatical errors, or any missing data. If the report is validated and it's approved by records, then we disperse to detectives.
Is it a fill in the blanks type report, or is it a free form?
The narrative portion is the narrative portion is free form. Most of the face sheet is drop-down menus. A lot of the data is transferred from the CAD, which is the computer-aided dispatch. So when the call is generated, that information automatically transfers over to the records management system.
So there is some integration from the very beginning that the officer isn't having to be as much of a creative writer as he is a reporter, it sounds like.
Correct, correct.
Or she, I don't mean.
Yes, and the system that we're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's encouraging because obviously that already contributes to some consistency and normalcy. And once you learn how to use the system, you know how to use the system. So that's
correct.
Great.
And the system that we're going to early next year, which is Mark 43, which will be our new records management system and CAD system, has the capability of doing the NIBRS reporting already. A lot of these will be drop-down menus.
Great.
So a report will have an additional 52 more questions that will need to be answered by victims, or officers will need to obtain that information from the suspect or from the witness in order to submit a correct report to the state.
How's the officer going to remember to ask the 52 additional questions?
That's where the training is going to come in the little training manual that I created. It's kind of like a help it's like a 10-page help. So the actual book that I had to abstract this data from is almost 350 pages.
Wow.
So I was able to condense, just for the officers, I believe, into 12 pages.
Is there any possibility, if not now, then down the line, that the officers would be able to, essentially ask the questions and fill in the report live on the scene using some kind of handheld devices? Is that anything that's a possibility, or that's in use anywhere else at the moment?
With Mark 43, they do have the phone app where we could download the app on the phone, and you could do what we could call the face page. The face page is the preliminary information: time, date, location, suspect or victim information. It will allow you to do that, and then you would only have to come into the station or go into your car and type up the narrative portion.
Yeah, and still remember the 52 questions they asked. Wow.
Yeah. In the beginning, it will be a learning curve in the beginning, but it's all repetitive, and once you start doing it, it will come easy.
Well, if I can add to that question, there's another thing that's going into effect 2022, which is what they call stop data or RIPA data. And when an officer makes a stop of pedestrian or vehicle, there's a series of questions they have to ask dealing with race, ethnicity, gender.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. And that's going to require a whole different thing. So also we are looking at the need by the courts to automate our citations. We already have a device for writing parking tickets. So we are looking at some type of device, usually a tablet, that will enable us to do the stop data, will enable us to do traffic citations, and perhaps help us with writing doing the face pages, and with information that'll help guide the officers while they're working in the field. It's just getting more and more complicated and more and more complex and demanding of more and more data retention.
Chief, perhaps you mentioned this already, but other than helping officers write better reports, is there some benefit to our city on the back end from gathering all this additional data? Like, does it allow any additional data analysis that we can't do based on our own records now? Or does it allow us to understand what's going on in neighboring cities better to better prepare for what's coming our way? Or something more that we can do with the data that will benefit San Marino residents?
Yes, and I'll let Angie answer that question.
Yes, it does allow for better data collection. It allows for, like you mentioned, statistical data where the boundaries are more set. So if a crime occurs in Alhambra, only Alhambra will be able to write that report, even though an officer, a San Marino police officer probably stopped the vehicle for Alhambra. Alhambra will have to take that report. So it's set boundaries. The boundaries are set very specific now. And it provides, like I said, a lot of this data is so all of the nation is on the same page. So what is being reported in California, I could go to New York and read crime data over there, and I will be able to understand it because we're going to be using the same language.
One of the other things to think about is when you kind of on a macro level, when you look at crime analysis, we look at people, places, and things. People, who are the victims, who are the suspects? What are they up to? What are they doing? Places, where are they? Where is crime occurring? What kind of places is crime occurring? And then things, what are they up to? What's happening? Where are they at? Are they at a community event in a park and it results in their car being stolen or something like that? We will be able to really get down into the weeds on some of this information that will help us. We can also look at the data from other cities, as Angie mentioned. And then also with our CAT RMS system, there's neighboring agencies, not very close by, but there's other agencies in LA County and elsewhere that are using the same CAT RMS system. So we'll be able to share data quicker and be able to get more detailed information through our CAT RMS.
Chief, it does sound more labor intensive to me. Is there a likelihood that this is going to require more staff?
It could very well. And then when we look at the RIPA data, when we look at some of the other things that are coming across from the state legislature, yeah, it could demand people to do more work or more people to help with all the work. Our records system, Angie and our records clerk are really maxed out on the amount of work that they're doing. And we're looking for different ways to help her out. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into reporting a crime nowadays.
Well, if as this develops, if there are opportunities for you to gather the same information once and share it 2 or 3 times, rather than have to gather it 2 or 3 times, there's I know you would be looking for things like that, and obviously I suspect that the community would be supportive of providing you the resources you need.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Angie and Chief Incontro, for that report. Will this presentation be available
Yes, of course.
on the website with our minutes?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Chief or Angie? If not, I guess a motion to accept and file this report.
Move to accept and file.
Jeff? I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to our last subject, summary recent Lacey Park playground inspection. Director Thrones.
Thank you, Chair Chang. As you might know, we have a very nice playground at Lacey Park. And part of our normal operation is to have it inspected by a certified playground inspector. Those are firms that they have trained individuals. They look at the play structures, they look at the safety zones around the structures, they look at the condition, they look at maintenance, and they provide us with a report for each play structure that we can then use to make improvements, make modifications to, and keep our playground in as safe condition as possible. We had this done just very recently in October when we were blessed to be able to have an open playground. And though the playground was closed on November 30th, but just shortly before that, just before Thanksgiving, we noticed that one of the play structures that had been inspected the month before had developed some cracks in the fake tree trunk. So we're going to get that play structure inspected again. The play structures that are there are not even 10 years old, and we're having material supply problem. The vendor for those play structures is no longer in business, and as it would be, no play structure manufacturer will supply spare parts or make parts for someone else's play structure. They do that because there's liability issues. So unfortunately, while we might have gotten a good deal with play structures, we need to buy them from a vendor that's no longer in business. We can't even get spare parts on the market there. So it's becoming a little bit more problematic as things fail. Because you really just can't replace nuts and bolts and the different connectors. All the connectors are highly specialized. And once we start replacing with aftermarket material that's not been certified by the manufacturer, we lose all shielding of liability. So it is going to become a problem in more of the near term than the long term. One of the things that the department will be proposing to the council as part of the capital improvement process is a multi-year play structure replacement program, so that we don't have to replace all of them all at once, but we can replace them in sequence and with a little bit more thought, and hopefully the next time around select the vendor that's in the continental United States and who's been in business a long time. Just for your own information, typically speaking, playgrounds such as the one we have, where you have play structures, you try not to plant trees in playgrounds, in the playground area itself. And that's because as children come off of slides or come off of swings, you really don't want them to crash into a tree. Plus, the tree then itself becomes a play structure, and we have to make sure that we maintain it in such a fashion. And not all trees make adequate play structures, to say the least. Even though I'm sure all of us in our days climb trees to no end, they're not really a very good play structure in a public park. So that is something that we still have, I think, 1 or 2 trees left in the playground. We had to remove one just before Thanksgiving and had developed a failure at the root ball. And actually, at the request of the mayor, we gingerly removed it from the playground, and we're trying to nurse it back to life, and then we'll give it a home. Hopefully, it will survive through the winter and give it a home into a new spot. What I did include for you were some photographs of the damage that we observed at the treehouse. From my perspective as your city engineer, it does not look structural. It looks purely cosmetic. The trunk actually is multiple pieces that are welded together around a steel frame that actually holds the play structure up. And it looks like the tree trunk is actually attached to some flanges, and with the the playground being so heavily used this year, especially in recent months, it could be a combination of just stress cracking and temperature and whatnot. But as I said, we are going to have that inspected. I also provided for you the audit that was done on all the play structures in the park, and some of their recommendations. Many of these things that we're working on as part of our routine operations. And also, very importantly, the mulch that goes around the play structures and in our playground is actually, it's just not mulch we just take from a tree that we grind up. It's actually specially processed mulch that is, it's been treated so that it can be ingested by children and not cause them any problems. And so it is a very expensive material. Many playgrounds you see have recycled rubber as its play surface. This particular playground, because of its Lacey Park, the specialized mulch is what we use. There's actually special wood chip. And we go through a process every year of purchasing it and regrading that whole area so that it's a nice area. It's a nice zone for children to fall on if they happen to do that when exiting one of the play structures, which again, we all do. We all have done, and I've seen kids all the time go out there. So that is a report I wanted to make you because it is a safety issue. And if you have any comments, I just wanted to give you a preview of a new program that it is in our capital improvement program. It's actually listed as to be developed, and now is the time to start to develop it. And any input you might have or insights will be helpful when I bring back the capital improvement plan for you to look at early in this coming calendar year. That concludes my presentation.
I always have questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Al.
May I?
Yes, please.
The obvious question is, whatever happened to sand? We used to have sand in the playground, right? And you slid down the slide and you went into the sand. Well, no. The real question, you mentioned earlier that you were going to have to take a program to the council for their consideration. Is that the program you're talking about presenting to us in January?
That will be part of our capital improvement plan when we bring, and that will probably, you guys, the commission reviewed it, I believe, in March and in April of last year.
Yeah, as I recall, we recommended the most of the things that you had proposed, and I believe that the council found the recommendation or the opinion of the commission useful. So I was just really asking the question is, if there's something that you need to take to the council for their consideration, will it be presented to us in time that we can be helpful to the council by offering an opinion before they vote rather than after?
Yes, the commission will be the advance before I bring anything to the council as it relates to specifically something like this, because it would be a new programmed expenditure. Play structures are generally not inexpensive, and by metering them out over time, you sort of lessen the blow financially to the community. What we're really not wanting to have happen is all of a sudden we have to close all of the structures because they're no longer safe to play on.
Right.
And unfortunately, with the structures being closed right now, this would actually be a very good opportunity to replace them. However, we really hadn't planned on doing that, so we'll probably have to just be dancing around our users of it come the summer when everyone gets to be able to be back out and use our play structures.
Thank you.
Well, Personally, I thought this was very interesting. I didn't know there's so much science in the playground equipment, and all the inspection that has to go into it. It was very interesting to me. Any other questions for Director Throne? Okay, gonna get a motion to accept and file this report.
I so move.
Thank you all. Jeff, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. Well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Our next meeting is in the new year, 2021, January 4th. Any departing thoughts before we adjourn?
Wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and hope you are all can remain safe. And we'll send good wishes to all of our city staff who do a great job.
Thank you, Commissioner Bug.
Thank you, and to all the commissioners also, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
Thank you all. I'd like to wish you all happy holidays, and we'll meet again next year. Stay safe.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
I think we're leaving.